Hey to all my lovely Patreons. It's Stasha Erickson. I hope you're doing well. It's looking a little weird in the lighting in my house today because it's been really bright and sunny here in Norway, and then suddenly, just overnight, winter has come. It is really dark, and so I have all the curtains closed and the fire burning, and I've also been, I don't know if you've caught my recent videos, but I've been really sick on and off. I had some weird stomach flu, and now I have a cold. So if I'm sniffing or coughing throughout this Patreon video, I do apologize. And that's also why this video didn't come out last month. It's coming out in October. I meant to make this a September Patreon video, but again, if you follow my story, you know I've been going through a lot lately. My son is moving from Ireland to Norway here with me in about 48 hours. And then, due to my visa immigration situation in Norway, my son and I then have to leave 2 weeks after he arrives. So I'm leaving like in 2.5 weeks to go back to California again to reset my visa. Hopefully, this is the last time I ever have to do it. The Norwegian government are really strict on financial requirements to let people live here. Even though we got married in Norway, my husband is the only one that can provide the income due to the fact that he's the Norwegian national. So he has been working his butt off for 5 years, basically. We've been together, and each year they raise the income requirements just a little bit higher. So we just keep missing the mark, and it's crazy. But so far, we've been adding up all the funds he's made this year being a carpenter, and I think we have made the goal already here in October. But I can't apply again until January of next year, so I have to go to California for a little while and maybe float around a bit until I can come back to Norway and apply. So it's kind of sad because I hate to be away from my son and my stepson and just my home in Norway. So any prayers you can send my way or any support you can send my way by going to my website, stashaerickson.com, and purchasing books or merchandise or services like my readings or healing services or house blessings will be greatly appreciated because I am just never-ending traveler and it's not by choice. Thanks, Norwegian government. Anyhow, another little anecdote I haven't told many of you is that my maternal grandfather, meaning my mother's father, he was not only born in Norway, but he was born in the same town that I live here in Norway. And there's actually a statue erected of him outside of the mayor's office because my grandfather was very famous here in Norway. But they emigrated to the United States many years ago, and then he died when my mom was only 17. So I never got to meet my grandfather, and the only way Norway would let me live here through a family connection was if my grandfather was still living. And he was dead years before I was ever born. So you see kind of what I'm dealing with here. So prayers are really appreciated, and all of your support on Patreon has been really, really helpful. It's helped me get through many, many, many tough moments. So thank you guys. Being self-published and having your own channel like this and doing everything yourself. I don't have assistants. I don't have web designers. I do everything alone. It's a lot. But it's my mission from God, and I have to be here to help you guys. So look at what Jesus went through, man. Even his best friend sold him out for some pieces of silver. So I can get through a few trolls and a little bit of constant traveling. You know, life can always be worse, and it's a lot harder for a lot of people throughout the planet that have literally nothing right now. Ugh, don't get me started. But anyway, my throat's closing up already. I'm so sick. Okay, but I'm here today to bring your Patreon video. I had some questions from you guys over the past couple of months. I did put a poll on the Patreon page, but I don't think anybody caught it because I asked you guys to add some new questions a few weeks ago. I didn't get any new questions, but I have so many old questions that I'm just going to go back to the list that I had and pick up where I left off last time. So the first question came from Nate. And Nate said, "Thank you, Stasha. What do we have to do or become to leave the earth and the reincarnation cycle?" So for any of my new patrons, go back and check through the last couple of months. You'll see a video that says for my patrons only, and it's only accessible to anybody who pledges $1 a month or more. I was talking about reincarnation and earth school and how our soul has to go through a lot of trials and tribulations before we kind of either have the chance to volunteer to come back to Earth again, or we have the chance to say, hey, my contract's fulfilled. I just want to stay in heaven now. I don't want to come back down there anymore. So that's a little bit of the context about what Nate's follow-up question was. So it's really hard to answer that question. First of all, Nate, great question. Thank you. It's really hard to answer that in a simple way. But what I can basically, how I can describe it in a nutshell is, most of us have lived hundreds of times. Our soul, anyway. Our soul has reincarnated hundreds, if not thousands of times. Believe it or not, sometimes we've lived on other planets, other universes, other dimensions. Reincarnation, again, it's really controversial for a lot of people that I talk about this because I'm a Christian, but I'm a biblical scholar. You have to realize I'm not a minister, I'm not a pastor, I'm not preaching at people. I'm studying the Bible from a historical perspective, and I can tell you for a fact that reincarnation is absolutely a real thing, and there's proof of it in the Bible over and over and over again. Many of the prophets, like Joshua and all these other guys, they were meant to be symbols of Jesus reincarnating over and over again. They even called Jesus, in the New Testament, he's even called the second Adam. So there's many people that believe that Jesus is actually Adam reincarnated as well. You know, it was God's first son. So why wouldn't he send back his first son later to redeem, first, that he ate from the fruit of tree of knowledge that he wasn't supposed to eat from, and second, that he could come back and save humanity, because technically, if we go by the story of Adam and Eve are the mother of all humanity. So if Adam sinned back in the garden, then God is very forgiving and understanding, and he gave him a second chance. So there's many people that believe that the same Adam of Adam and Eve is actually also Jesus reincarnated. Same Son of God, back and forth. So I don't like to debate with people about that because they think, you know, past lives and reincarnation is some type of witchcraft. It's not. Think about all the times that you have like a strange feeling about something, or you don't want to go to a place, or you have a fear that you can't explain, and it's not from this life. That's old residual memory that's within your DNA, that's within your soul, that remembers going through things. So I've done like thousands of past life readings. It's crazy. I have to keep like stopping them sometimes because once I do one or two, someone tells a friend, and then I'm like flooded with past life readings. But I can tell you, we've been here many, many, many times. So in order to answer your question, Nate, what this means is that each time we reincarnate, in between lives, we go into a place known as like the world between worlds. When we exit this human body, we're kind of in between. That's when I believe we meet with God and maybe some of his counsel or his angels, and we do a life review, or they do a life review, and say, this is all the things you've accomplished, but these were all the things that your soul really still needs to experience in order to grow to its fullest extent. Do you want to go back and live in a different type of life and pick up those pieces and clean up the unfinished business? Or do you just want to stay where you are now and keep your soul at the level of growth that it is now? When we leave these bodies and we're up in heaven and we are in this place where we don't have pain and suffering and even physical matter, we can look at the world in through a much different lens. So believe it or not, I would say 8 out of 10 people decide to come back to Earth. And that is usually because they want to become the best versions of themselves as they can be. And then many come back even when they've exceeded, let's say they've done extra credit, like they've finished their initial soul requirements. They come back and then they say, you know what? Now that my soul has grown so much, I realize how much more help humanity still needs. Send me back, Lord. I even had a very similar experience where I remember in some type of dream state begging the Lord to let me come back and live again, because my last incarnation before Stasha was somebody who never had children. In fact, she had a lot of abortions, and the only thing she ever wanted was to be a mother. I won't get too emotional. But my life lesson in this life was to come back and to be a mother. So when I finished that last life and I realized that was the one thing I always wanted, and I'll just say my last life didn't want to have all those abortions. She was forced into it. Let's just say she was a celebrity. So she was forced to do these things beyond her will from her husband, her publicist, her managers, you name it. So she died brokenhearted, essentially. And I realized that this soul really was an amazing soul, but she needed to be a mom. So from the minute I was born as Stasha, from the age of 3, all I ever wanted to do was be a mom. I used to play house. I had dolls. I had baby dolls. I wasn't even playing with Barbies. I had like the little babies and had a push cart and a fake kitchen and a fake changing table. I knew from the age of 3 I was going to be a mom. When I was 17, I met my first husband, who was from Ireland. And by the time I was 18, we were married. By the time I was 19, I had my daughter August, who's soon 20 years old. And by the time I was 21, I had my son Dimitri, who's soon 18 years old. So I have pretty much, at 39 years now, have been a mother for more than half of my life. It's kind of all I ever have known. So for me, that's why I decided to come back this time. To be the best mom I could be, and not just a mom to my own children, but like a mother to humanity. And that's why I help all of you with my work. No one really knows all that story, so this is a very private thing that I'm sharing with you guys because I feel like I can trust my patrons. And that's also why I only ask $1 a month of you guys. I'm not greedy. I never will be. So, I appreciate your $1 a month. It really means a lot. Like there's been some times when the start of the month comes and my $20 from Patreon clears and I like just really need groceries or something. So again, thank you. So that is essentially how the reincarnation cycle works. We can break it at any time, but when we are in this life, we have to be the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be. Every trial, every tribulation, every test. Even now, I'm sick today. I could have just laid in bed, but I know that it's my mission, and I made a promise to you guys to fulfill and answer these questions. So even when days are hard, we have to get up, and we have to be the best that we can be every single day. Because that is how our soul will grow. The point of being on earth is soul growth. The more you grow, the more you have a chance to go home to the world between worlds and decide whether you want to come back or not. So as long as you don't keep making a lot of mistakes or repeating the same mistakes over and over again, like in AA, they call that insanity. The definition of insanity is repeating the same mistakes over and over again. If you can be aware of your patterns in this life, and you're conscious and spiritual enough to have found me in my work and even ask these type of questions, that means you may be on your last life. And in fact, you may have even volunteered to be in the life that you're in right now, even if it seems so hard and it's the worst. You're doing this for the bigger picture. You're doing this for all of humanity. So don't be worried about breaking the reincarnation cycle. Just start focusing on being the best version of yourself that you can be every day. Help people with small things, donate things, do nice things for people, do things without expecting anything in return. That is the true mark of a good person. Okay, I know that was a super long explanation, but that's what I mean. You can't nutshell this stuff. So there you go. And even back to the Bible, many prophets were reincarnated to keep the message repeating. Okay? We have to believe in some type of a God. It doesn't have to be the Christian God. You can believe in any God you like, but we have to believe in something greater than ourselves that created us. We did not just come out of the Big Bang, y'all. There's too much proof at this point that we didn't even have a Big Bang. We are very special beings, and we are in control of a lot more than we realize. So don't lose your power. I'm hearing right now to tell somebody, stop giving your power away. Okay? Remember, you're here for a reason and you chose it. So start living it. Okay, now the second question that I got, I don't know how many I can get to because I just talk so much. This is why I'm a better writer. I can just write and write for days. If I talk, it never ends. Okay, so from Jackie, she said, "Hi Stasha, my question about regarding the background people." Oh yes, in the last Patreon video, Jackie asked me something about background people, and I wasn't sure what she was referring to, so she's starting off by explaining this to me. I believe background people was a Dolores Cannon reference to people who are in your life but are not a participant. Anyway, I was given this name by a fellow member of the Jinx Effect website for the Mandela Effect people. Okay, I know Jinx. She's a friend of mine. She has a great Mandela Effect group on her own website and also on Facebook. So let's see. So let's get to the explanation. So the explanation for the background, people. I was walking my dog along a wide footpath and noticed a man standing 10 meters ahead of me on the curb of the road. He was staring hard, which was what made me notice him. Then my dog yanked on the leash, and I looked sideways to see what he was doing. And when I looked back up, the man had disappeared. There was no time for him to have entered one of the residences, and a car had not passed me, so he wasn't picked up. And yes, he was real. I can describe everything about him. This is my experience. Okay, I never heard the term background, people. I've read a little Dolores Cannon, but again, I do try to stay a little bit away from New Age stuff. Again, as a biblical scholar, I learn a lot about where the New Age came from. Most of it started in Babylon, and that was the fall of one of the biggest falls of humanity as a society that has been recorded in history. And Babylon is not a myth, you guys. It was a real place, and it was evil. So, I hate that I always go off on these tangents about Babylon and stuff. But what's going on here is that I'm trying to find the best way to explain this. Okay. What you're doing, this is like coming through my crown as we speak. Okay. I was just explaining why I didn't like New Age so much. Okay. It's not to put Dolores Cannon down. She was a really, really sweet woman. But what I want to get back to is that there's a lot of confusion out there about terms like twin flame and all these different New Age stuff. So from what I've learned about the experience that you just told me, and we'll delete all the New Age stuff out of it, what this story sounds like to me is that you yourself, Jackie, are what is known as a human portal. What that means is that you have probably been to Earth many times and have maybe, let's say, passed your minimum system requirement of being here. You've gone beyond that. And I believe you've chose to come back to be a helper of humanity. Many people that have ascended really far up in their soul growth level, when they hunker down into a human body, they have so much spiritual godlike energy within them that they emanate it out, which can be a good thing if you're in a good mood. They can also emanate it out or project it out when you're angry or in a bad mood, so that can be equally as dangerous. So I'd say you probably have moments where you could be like Jekyll and Hyde. That's because you are full of spiritual knowledge and spiritual understanding. Now, when a human is at this level of soul growth, they become what I said is like a human portal. So you, let's say, if you went into a really dark church or something like that, and you walked in the door, your energy could clear the room. If you walked in there with a really positive intention of like, there's something dark going on here, and you just walk through. This is a lot of the work my husband and I have done. If you look on the Healing Ceremonies playlist on my YouTube channel, we'd see we go to these really old places and they just did not feel right. So before I'd even walk through the door, I would just surround myself with God's love and light and prayer and angels and whatever I could think of. And I would go in there with the intention of anything evil here or negative here, be gone. And you would almost feel like a gust of wind, like leave the room. So your power has just as much power to do something good as it does to do something maybe destructive. So you need to focus your energy really hardcore on only the good, okay? When you're a portal, you're actually able to slip in and out of dimensions very quickly, which is funny that you mentioned the Mandela effect first. There is a whole lot of dimensional shifts going on right now. Again, I don't think we live in a parallel reality that's a copy of our old Earth. I don't. I'm not saying that that can't be true. I just don't buy it. I believe all the different dimensions that exist, and even back to old ghost hunting stories, you'll hear the myths of like how the other world is like 3 feet above us or 3 feet below us, that there's different dimensions, that we're all just piled up on top of each other, lower or higher. So what I feel is happening right now, both the lower and the higher dimensions are kind of merging into one reality, and that's what we know as 3D. And this is on the same planet, our planet Earth. And it could be too why when people look at Mandela effect, they say, "Oh, we're located in the opposite side of the universe." Well, maybe those people that look it up are from an opposite side of the universe, but we're not, and vice versa. Do you see what I'm saying? I believe we're all from the same planet. It's just that we're merging together. And this could be, again, biblical. This could have to do with the end of, not the end of the world. I hate that. But like the end of this era where we don't need to be so divided. And that's why I brought Babylon up earlier. That was the first time that we were all separated from each other. The angel Gabriel came down and changed all of our languages into psychobabble. So we could not even communicate with each other anymore. This is the same type of thing that's going on kind of as we speak right now. So what you saw that day was a guy walking in one dimension, and then your understanding or your awareness, he could have been from a lower dimension. When you noticed him and then looked again, you were probably on that higher dimension because you were aware of like someone that wasn't supposed to be there. So I believe that this person is kind of like a dimensional shifter, and you caught them in the act. And when they got caught in the act, they bailed. So you absolutely saw that person, but they disappeared back to the dimension that they originated from, if that makes sense. I feel like it was a lower dimension, the guy you saw. A lot of ghosts are real too. They get stuck in the world between worlds, or they get stuck. They don't want to go home. They get attached to their homes, their money, their family. They don't want to let go. So I think there is also a dimension which is kind of known as like purgatory, where people are just kind of floating around aimlessly and they don't know where to go. So one of the biggest things that I do when I do like prayer and healing ceremonies for people is that I pray that all of the lost souls go home to Papa. Please watch my healing ceremony videos. YouTube have taken down like 50 of them, but I do have some left, maybe like 10 of them on my YouTube channel. You will feel and see what I'm talking about this, okay? So that experience was real. You saw someone from a lower dimension. When you acknowledged him, he disappeared because he didn't want to be seen. The lower guys know more about what's going on right now than we do, and so do the higher guys. So we're in the middle, like as anchors, trying to decipher all this crazy information. And this is why the Mandela Effect book was really hard for me to write, for sure. Okay, so Jackie, I hope that helped explain your question. Let's see. Okay, let's see. It's getting... How long am I getting here? I don't want to bore you guys. Okay. Tim O'Brien, he says, "Thanks, Stasha. Hope you have a wonderful trip to Ireland." See, this is how long it's been. I've already been to Ireland and back, and now I'm already off to California again. God, my life just never ends with the traveling. The trip to Ireland was wonderful, so much so that my son decided to move from Ireland to Norway. So I guess I made a good impression those 2 weeks. So thanks for giving me some time off, guys. When you have a chance, could you go a little more into detail on the soul group answer? Or if you have a video on the subject, maybe you could direct me there. I did have a lot of videos on subjects like that. And YouTube, hate me, man. They take all my videos down all the time. Eventually, if I can get enough people following me, like start a mailing list or something, I'm just going to have to start sending people to my website because YouTube's, they don't like me. I am under attack. I'll just leave it at that. So I don't have any existing videos on that, but I did basically explain that in the first question with Nate. So the soul group answer, I don't know exactly what you meant by soul group or if you just meant the reincarnation cycle. Basically works the same way. If we talk about soul groups are a little bit different. God, I did a bunch of soul group healing ceremonies too at Standing Stone Rings here in Norway, and YouTube took those down as well. I did a really big ceremony with 144 people at 144 standing stones in Norway that's been there since 5,000 years BC, like super powerful stuff, and they took it down. So a soul group is essentially, like we hear about like first wavers and second wavers and blah, 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 different incarnations, especially in the New Age, groups of people that come through at the same time with a mission. So many of us have been born, let's say, in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. I don't have so many people that watch my videos that are of the 2000s. I have people that are born from the 50s and even the 40s. In fact, my age demographic for YouTube is the average age of people that watch my videos right now is between 50 and 64 years old. I think that's amazing. I love the youth too, but I feel like talking with adults, like sometimes it's a little easier to get through some of this really deep understanding. Um, so yeah, so soul groups can be kind of like first wave, second wave, third wave, all these different people coming through in groups together with a similar mission. I do believe that is the case. I do believe, more so than calling it a soul group, I believe that many of us lived in past dynasties together. Let's say Egyptian dynasty, the Greco-Roman era, the Inquisition days, like with the Cathars and all that stuff that I've talked a lot about. I think they took all my Cathars videos down too. Oh my God. Anything that I was helping humanity with, YouTube took it down. That tells you something about YouTube. But I do believe we come down in groups of people around the same time in waves, and that is to complete a specific mission. That's why you'll find a lot of similarities with people that are, if they're spiritually open, you'll find a lot of similarities with people that are your same age group over people that are either older or younger than you. So soul groups are a thing. I just don't know what to call them. I don't know if soul group is the right answer, but I would call them volunteers. I would say waves of volunteers come down at the same time to help with different parts of humanity's mission. Humanity at large, ever since really the first flood with Noah, we have been at battles. We have been divided. It's just like the presidential election we see right now. Everyone's divided. So it's really important to start finding people that you resonate with right now, reach out to them, and kind of create your own little tribe or your own little soul group. And I hope that kind of makes sense. Okay, I'm almost at 30 minutes right now. I still have a couple more questions from Jeremy Cox and from Mandy. But unfortunately, I'm running out of time and I really am feeling sick again. But I hate to promise something and not deliver, so I really wanted to deliver this to you guys. So what I'm going to do, this will be private for patrons only. If you didn't catch the poll that I had, the best thing to do is when you see this video on Patreon, if you have some more questions for me about any topics that I cover, just leave them in the comments below in the Patreon video. Remember, that's private. No one will see your comment. Nobody will see it unless they're my patron. And I only have like 10 patrons, so it's a pretty small knit thing. You can feel safe on my Patreon page. So if you have some more questions for the follow-up video, I'll start with the next two questions I just talked about for Jeremy and Mandy for the next video. And then I will also answer any other additional questions you guys have from this video or any new questions. It doesn't really matter. Also, if you're one of my Patreons and you've never received one of my 3 published books on ebook format, I have 3 books. Animal Communication teaches you how to communicate with animals telepathically, physically. It also goes into a lot of history of past animal activists and stuff like that that have changed humanity. My second book is called Diary of an Asset. Diary of an Asset was kind of like my true story. It talks all about MK Ultra and pretty much every other conspiracy theory known to man. I was able to wrap up into that book, but it's all based on a true story. So it's really, really important book. It's just gotten 0 interest. I don't know why. Nobody likes that book. It's been attacked in the comments on Amazon. It's pretty bad. The attacks, I mean. The book, I think, is going to change people's lives. So the Diary of an Asset is another one that I wrote. And the third book that I wrote, of course, you all know, is the Mandela Effect book. So if you are one of my patrons and you would like to receive one of my 3 books on ebook, also in the comments below here, leave me your email address and tell me which book you would like a copy of. And for each patron, I always offer to email 1 free ebook of one of my published works. Wow, even my camera's going crazy right now. Maybe I'm just not meant to make a video today, but I tried. I really appreciate you guys, and I really appreciate the support and love and everything. So I'm going to go now. I'll go blow my nose and cough a little bit, but I love you guys ever so much. Because I'm going to be crazy traveling, getting my son here and off to California again. Most likely I'll do the next Patreon video in November from California when I have a little better time zone and I have some time to breathe. I'll be arriving like the first week of November, and I'll probably be there at least until December, if not maybe even through the new year. I hope not. I hate being away from my whole family at Christmas. It really sucks. So prayers for my immigration. Any support you can send my way through the website. And please leave your comments and questions for next month's video below. I love you guys so much, and peace from Norway. Bye-bye.